Granite temples were pioneered by Pallava kings in a very big way and the Pandya kings in India for the first time. This is a granite structure. And look at, you can't even put your hand inside. It is from a single stone they have carved. There are 161 such pillars that make these musical sounds. Now, if you have to make musical sounds, you should know what is called sound engineering. I'll use today's terms. You should know sound engineering because you should know frequency, you should know amplitude. In physics, they will teach all that. So, without knowing all that, you cannot make that frequency. And people who knew that never tried it on a stone. People who knew it 500, 700 years later have never tried it on a stone. Whereas we tried everything on stone. That is the greatness of this temple. Om Vagartha Viva Sampraktau Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagata Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Sada Shivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Harihi Om. So I would talk a little bit about the Indian knowledge system. So it is a very strange anubhava for all of us that we have to make extraordinary effort to understand Indian knowledge system in a formal sense. In our day-to-day life, we do practice, we do experience Indian knowledge, but in a very formal sense, it is not part of our education system at all so far. I mean, I do not know what to speak of it. It is so unfortunate that any attempt, even a slightest attempt to bring in Indian knowledge system, people see red in it or saffron in it, to be more precise. And we have reached that kind of a situation now. Now, this situation, towards the end, I will talk about it. Why did we land in this mess? It is very important for us to know it. I'm not going to get into it now. All that I am saying is a country which has a parampara for millennia. In fact, in my first chapter of the book, I created a table of some important works in Indian knowledge system. The question was, how do you time bracket it? This was a question I had faced. Because Veda, you cannot put it in some time. So, in mathematics, there is something called open interval. If you say less than, it is open interval. If you say less than or equal to, it is a closed interval. Because, less than or equal to, so it cannot go beyond that. So I used in the modern parlance, they use dark ages. Dark ages was already very bright in India. That's what I finally found. Because the texts that listed under dark ages, so-called dark ages, because I use the contemporary conversation, sometimes it helps to even clarify these issues. So this country, in every text, you take Arthashastra. Arthashastra people are saying 2200, 300 years old, Kautilya's Arthashastra. When I say Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra. But then the first mantra he says is, it is not my work. I am only collecting what Ushanas and Bharadwaj and all these people have said. But I am going to disagree with some of them, agree with some of them. So Arthashastra is not 2300 years old. 2300 years old, he put it to some. If you look at Ayurveda, Sushruta will say the same thing. This is the legacy of this country. That, now Nilesh Oak is saying Surya Siddhanta is 11,000 BC. He is bringing his own arguments and all that kind of things. I do not even, for us, 11,000 BC doesn't really bother us because we say Treta Yuga, we say Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga, and all that. In modern parlance, they are not going to agree to any of those. And we seem to be part of this story. That the Western world woke up 2000 years back. Until then, we do not know what was there in the West. It woke up 2000 years back. And as though before that nothing existed, there was no knowledge, and the Westerners brought some knowledge. Our children are educated like that today. So, in that backdrop, we have to see Indian knowledge system. This is the point I want to first of all say, that the backdrop in which we have to see Indian knowledge system is one in which it is very difficult to take it with a pinch of salt. Our own people have been created, have been groomed like that. I am part of such education system. God has been kind to me. I stepped out of it. Some samskara, because of which I was able to step out of it and then see it with the help of a few gurus. I was able to see through it a little bit. So the current establishment, the central government is very serious to bring it back. There is a very vibrant attempt called Department of Indian Knowledge System, which we created in 2019. I was one of the founding member of that 5-member team which created under MHRD what is called Indian Knowledge Systems, and I am seeing that it is not going to be that easy. We are doing upstream swimming. Idopi kinchit kalam avashyakam. But it is okay. As my only worry is we should not be traveling on the wrong road. If you are traveling on the right road, even if you pass for some time, walk slowly, I am okay. So we have now gone from the wrong road to the right road now. So that gives me a sense of comfort. So with this background, I have to use, because there are some photos and figures I cannot explain. It's better I show it. Indian knowledge system is living. It is not something dead or something which is non-existent or anything of that kind. These are all living traditions, but we never bothered to bring it to our attention of our own people, youngsters, and make them see through the value of it, do some research in it. All that is going to happen in the next 15 years. The youngsters are going to pick it up in a big way. I may not be able to do it. Maybe we are all doing it in our own limited sense, but it will happen in a big way. So let me just start. I do not know how many of you can recognize this. This is one of the biggest temple in Tirunelveli district called Nellayappar. This is a photo from Nellayappar temple. So I was born in that district. Sengote is my place of birth. 15 years I lived there. That was the biggest blessing I had. I never went to a big city until I came to IIM Bangalore. I never knew big cities, or I came to Chennai for a PhD and all that, IIT and so on. This temple has several Vaisishtya. There are very special things about this. What I am showing here, this is the only temple, even today you can go and then tap all these pillars and see 7 notes of music. It's a musical pillar. In Madurai temple it is there. They have, when I was a child, because my native is Madurai, we used to go and tap. Now they have actually put, in the South Adi Veedi, musical pillars are irukku. They have now enclosed it because Madurai number of people visiting is very high. They keep tapping this pillar, it will all break. Tirunelveli still it is possible. So this is built 1,500 years back. 1,500 years back, this temple was built by Nindrasir Nedumaran, a Pandya king. And musical pillars are very common. If you want to know science, engineering, technology, do Kshetratana. You have to just visit temples. Temple was everything. I am telling you seriously. Temple was everything. If you want to know science, engineering, technology, go to temples. See, we go to temple and then go to the Mukhya Devata, Garbhagraha. But please make it a point, henceforth when you go to a temple, if you spend half an hour, 45 minutes in the Garbhagraha and Sannidhanam, you should pray. Spend another 1 hour and see around. You will find the best facets of science and engineering technology conceived 1500 years back at least. The first thing is, building this temple is impossible. Granite is the hardest known material for mankind. Granite work பண்றது not easy. If you want to work on a granite, you need what is called high-speed alloy steel. The tools that you use must be harder than the material. This is a simple rule, no? The material with which you are trying to shape another material must be at a higher level. You need a guru for a shishya. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Right? So, if you want to work on granite temples were pioneered by Pallava kings in a very big way and the Pandya kings in India for the first time. This is a granite structure. And look at, you can't even put your hand inside. It is from a single stone they have carved. That is the pillar I am talking about. 48 pillars, a cluster of 48 pillars carved from a single stone. So what tools they used, how they carved, it will easily break if you don't have the right tool. Either the tool will break or the granite stone will break. Sarvam vyartham bhavet. You have to be careful. So they have created this. There are 161 such pillars that make these musical sounds. Now, if you have to make musical sounds, you should know what is called sound engineering. I'll use today's terms. You should know sound engineering. Because you should know frequency, you should know amplitude. In physics, they will teach all that. So without knowing all that, you cannot make that frequency. And people who knew that never tried it on a stone. People who knew it 500, 700 years later have never tried it on a stone. Whereas we tried everything on stone. That is the greatness of this temple. Next time if you go to Tirunelveli, it's a very big temple. Nellaiappar temple. Go and see these structures. You'll understand what kind of a pedigree we have, what kind of a background we have come from. We should know the Hanuman in us. So when you tap one pillar, because they are all closely held pillars with a little gap, surrounding pillars will vibrate because the sound travels. You should go and try it. You will really appreciate what I am saying. This is the heights of engineering in 700 BC, 700 AD, if you want. Which civilization was able to even think about this? We have been able to not think, make it happen. Everybody this is a very famous pillar in Qutub Minar. This was shifted to Qutub Minar in 300 AD. It was not in Qutub Minar. It was in somewhere in Orissa. They knocked it off and then took it there. Assuming it was there, doesn't matter. It is in open sky. It has weathered for the last around 2000 years. No rust. No rust. They have not kept it in a strong room. They have not kept it in a locker. They have left it in the open. Rain, temperature, heat, everything. No rust. This pillar. Iron pillar. This is the only pillar people know. I can give you at least 20 sites in India. If you go to Kollur, which is 50 kilometers from Sringeri, Kollur is 40 kilometers from Arabian Sea. So the chances of corrosion must be high there. There is a pillar which is not rusted. Next time if you go to Kollur, go and see. There is an iron pillar there. And on the seashore in Puri, in Bhubaneswar, which is 20 kilometers from the sea, 177 iron beams, full of iron beams. Temple there. So that's what it is. This country had a great technology in what is called iron and steel. See, iron, steel, if you read metallurgy, which they teach in engineering, steel is nothing but ferrous iron plus carbon. That's what steel is. If you take iron and mix carbon in a particular proportion, you will get different. This is a very big ticket item today. The entire metallurgy is only on ferrous carbon alloy. I am just throwing jargons at you because you should not get worried when people talk about all these. You say, we all know all that. It's called ferrous carbon alloy. I have also learned metallurgy because I am a mechanical engineer. If you are a mechanical engineer, there is one diagram you should know, otherwise you are not a mechanical engineer. It is called temperature time transformation diagram. It's a 3-dimension. At different temperature, at different times, what will happen to this metal? This is metallurgy's central theme. This is you can never become a mechanical engineer. So the high-speed alloy steel, stainless steel, and there are different terms. Indians were very good in a steel, and which was exported from Kodungalur. See, at that time there were two important ports: Kodungalur on the west coast and Pumbuhar on the east coast. From Pumbuhar we went far east. From Kodungalur we went to Rome. So Damascus blade. See, warfare was not bomb and all that. It was all sword, talwars. To manufacture that, the only steel used is called wood steel, imported from India. When? BC time onwards. It is called wood steel. Why? Because that wood steel is manufactured only a place not far from here. Again, over 100 kilometers. That's where the wood steel was manufactured. It is called Ukku in Kannada. Urukku in Tamil. Steel is called Urukku. Selam Urukku alai. So foreigners simply, Urukku and Ukku are too much for them. They call it as woods. That's how the name changed. 1923, there is a metallurgy conference. They were trying hard to find out how to replicate the composition of wood steel. They have not succeeded. Britishers killed the wood steel in 19th century. They slapped mining ban. They slapped huge production tax, and they brought it to a grinding halt. Finished. The great legacy of metalworking which Indians alone had, we lost. Lost in the sense the government squeezed the neck. Zinc. Nobody in the world knew how to extract zinc. Because zinc getting 500 degree from the zinc. See, all metals are extracted only from a ore. You dig and then take the ore from the earth. Then you boil it. Whether it is gold or iron, everything has to be done like that. Zinc, the problem was, when you melt the ore, at 500 degrees centigrade, zinc will vaporize. It come out of the ore like vapor. At 550 degrees centigrade, it will become zinc oxide. So zinc kadakadu. You have to catch it between 500 and 600. Nobody in the world knew. Indians knew it. So they developed a methodology called downward drift distillation process. And the gas appdi varumbodhu adha oru kolai, take it through a pipe and cool it in another place and extract the metal. Nobody knew in the world. In 11th century AD, Indian production of zinc was industrial grade, million tons, where the world was scratching to find out what is zinc. So I can go on copper, gold, all. We were absolutely fabulous in metalworking technology. We do not know where they are today. So this is a living example of that. This is called Kallanai, the Grand Anai Cut. This is the only surviving dam in the world. There are only 4 oldest dams in the world. Recent history means 2,200 years. In recent history, they located only 4 dams, out of which only one is surviving. That is Karigalan Kattivaitha Kallanai. This is the only one which is surviving. Britishers increased the height by, the structure was never touched. It was only, they slightly raised it by a few inches and all that. So if I have to use today's term, Indians were very good in what is called watershed management. If I have to use a word like that. Uttaramerur inscriptions in Rikka. If you go and see, there are a beautiful description of how we manage water bodies. Not only here. If you go to Rajasthan, if you go to the western parts of the India, there is, I don't know how many of you have seen what is called step well. Such a beautiful structure for water management. Step wells. It is aesthetics, water management, religion, God, everything combined into one structure. Such a beautiful step wells are there. Rajasthanis know how to squeeze gypsum and take water out of it. It's our technology. So desert people have enough water. They say, give a phone call, we'll send you water to Bangalore if you have water shortage. We were very good in watershed management. If you go to Bihar area, there is something called Ain and Pine system. Again, water. How to manage water. That is why we were flourishing. We knew that, we knew Pravritti and Nivritti both are important. See, Shankaracharya, when he wrote the Bhashya for Bhagavad Gita, there was a Upodgata, there was a preamble, very unusual for Acharya to write. He said, Dvivido Vedokto Dharmaha Pravritti Lakshana Nivritti Lakshanasya Jagataha Sthiti Karanam. He says Pravritti Lakshana, Nivritti Lakshana is required Jagataha Sthiti Karanam. Sakshat Praninam Abhyutaya Nishreyasa Hetuhu. That's what he said. So we knew it. We were good in Pravritti and Nivritti. What is today's education? Just swing it only to Pravritti. Make money, make money. Money is everything. Then I asked some of my managers, so when will you become spiritual? Sir, after I become retired. Then I asked them, today is retirement, today evening you'll come and sleep, tomorrow morning you get up and you become spiritual. It is a 30-year investment. At the age of 30, you should start to become spiritual. You cannot retire today, sleep today morning, tomorrow morning get up, your embodiment of spirituality. That is our culture. Sanatana dharmasya vishaya. Pravritti dharmasya, nivritti dharmasya, ubhayasyapi asmabihi prayatnam karaniyam iti. Ashrama dharmasya vaisishtyam tateva. Ashrama dharmam adukku dhaan vechirukku. That as you go along, you are very good in Pravritti dharma and you also know Nivritti dharma. May differentially apply it. That is okay. So that is the kind of culture. So all these are part of Pravritti dharma. We were very good in that. There are so many things. 1804 British raised it by a few inches and etc. etc. Konark. If you want to know astronomy, if you want to know how difficult to understand astronomy, you should go and visit this temple. Because each one of them is a sundial. You can see the time by the shadow of the sun. There are 24 of them around the Ratha, like Ratha wheel. Every day the sun as it rises, the first rays of the sun will fall on the Garbhagraha. That is how the temple was constructed. Temple is in shambles today. The Dutch came and then, because they had no meaning for it, they just plundered and took everything and went away. So if every day during sunrise, if the first ray of the sun has to fall on the Devata, you should be an ustad in astronomy, otherwise you can't do. Because you should know the movement of sun and moon, the entire precession of the universe you should know. We were extraordinarily good in mathematics and astronomy in addition to metalworking technology. I mean, I'm not talking about Vedanta, I'm not talking about philosophy, I'm not going to do that. I don't have to do it. You have enough of that. I am saying we were very good in all these. That is the other side of the Indian knowledge system which I wanted to show you. So all these were possible. 13th century, 800, 900 years back, they have put up a structure with good knowledge of astronomy. Otherwise, it is not possible. It is simply not possible. We should not waste our time. Unless you know astronomy, you can't do what they were. It is not, magic, or it is not some. You have to know properly how the movement of the sun, Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, everything we should know. Only then the sun ray can fall on the presiding deity first every day morning. That is this temple. Etat ekameva udaharanam. Etat sarvam ekameva udaharanam. Bahuri udaharanani santi. There are hundreds of them. I am only showing here and there one or two, just to give you a sense of what is this Indian knowledge that we are talking about. This can be what is called a Panchaloha. Panchaloha means there are 5 metals. So Indians know how to even mix 5 metals, not one metal. Right? Gold, silver, copper, right? Lead, iron. You can mix all that. Panchaloha idols. And what do we read today? Every day we read either the idols are smuggled out of India or with great difficulty we bring it back. This is all we are reading. Do you want to have a culture which is only reading these things? You Kumbhakonathu poningna inniki idu panninu iruka. It's a trade which is dropping, unfortunately. No, there are very interesting trades in this country. Aranmula nu oru idam irukku near Pandalam, Sabarimalaikku munnadi. Parsarathi Koil, there's a very beautiful Parsarathi Koil in Aranmula. If you go there, they'll give you a mirror. It's very famous in Aranmula. The mirror is made of metal. It is not the mirror in the usual mirror. It is made of metal. The metal is polished in such a level that it is a mirror. Each mirror will weigh some 10-20 kgs, even a small mirror, because it is metal, solid metal. That trade is going out. That's not easy to do. With the current set of 30,000 RPM, 50,000 revolution per minute machines, they cannot make that polish. The process is different there. So I can give many such examples regionally. So these Panchaloha idols, manufacturing of these Panchaloha idols is available in, it is called Madhuchishta Vidhanam. Madhu Uchishta Vidhanam. Vishnu, it is there in Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. Very nicely written. How do you know, Uchishta is left out. Madhu is honey. So in 17th century, Westerners found this process. It's called last wax. There is some French term, Pierre de some process. What is that? Madhuchishta Vidhanam. How do you create the mold which gives such sharp objects? I mean, look at the features of these idols. These are all the courtesy Chola kings. 7th century AD to 11th century AD, you will find that we were at the pinnacle of making such dolls. Today we are only busy smuggling it out or bringing it back. If you want to do it, you should know metallurgy again. You should know how properties of metals, what proportion you should mix. ஒரு மைசூர் பாகு பண்ண முடியல, எல்லாம் உதிர்ந்துடுறது கட்டி. You can't even make one halwa or one Mysore pak. You're talking of mixing 5 metals in some proportion. It's not easy. That's why I'm giving that example. It's not easy. Don't think it is easy. If you don't get the right combination, the metal will not set. It will go like this broken Mysore pak. That is the point I'm making. So they are very good in metallurgy. Right? The process they adapted to make such sharp features. Absolutely fabulous. Varaha Mihira in the 5th century AD has what is called Brihat Samhita, which is more or less like an encyclopedia. Somebody can read Brihat Samhita alone. You get astronomy, you get... In Brihat Samhita, there are 5... So this is iconography. I'm talking about iconography now. In Brihat Samhita, he has given 5 models humanoid. 5 models for male and 5 models for female. What do I mean by that? What is the ratio of this to this? What is the ratio of this to this? What is the ratio of upper limb to lower limb? I do not know why these textile manufacturers are not reading it. Ready-mades can be made much better. Is it not? All iconography texts, Samarangana Sutradhara, whether it is Mayamatam, they will go to Brihat Samhita and take those 5 models. So Indians were very deep in observation. Otherwise, that's why we were good in astronomy. We were very keen observers. We were hugely scientific. We were not blind for thinking and all that. Westerners have told us in the last 200 years, and we are all learning it in our classes. So we were all told that we are all blind, faith, and people use the word blind faith. I tell them, don't use blind faith. Faith is always blind. Don't unnecessarily use the word blind there. Faith means proof is strictly unnecessary. Sanatana Dharmasya Mukhya Adharaha Pramana is Shraddha. Shraddha is not equal to faith. You cannot do it like that. I'm just saying. Okay. So this again we were very good. Madhuchishta Vidhanam. I taught it in Chinmaya University. And where did I take this from? From a Department of Mathematics in one university in Canada. Paudayana Sulba Sutra. The question is, how do you make any shape? Here it is a construction for square. How do you make any shape with what? You have only a stick and a thread. That's all you have. One stamba is there, one raju is there. That's all you have. How do you make complex shapes? And when you tie a thread to a stick, you can only generate a circle. If you take the thread around the stick, what will happen? Only you will get a circle. So Indians know to use only circle and generate any shape. It is called cyclical geometry in today's terms. Cyclical geometry. Indians are very good. All our Sulba Sutras, Katyayana Sulba Sutra, Bodhayana Sulba. This is actually there is a shloka from Bodhayana Sulba Sutra with which I used to give the shloka and say first part talks about step 1, step 2, like that. I used to construct this to my students just to tell them, don't think Indians didn't know any mathematics. As an example, I used to show this. So just with a pole anchored on the ground. Why? Because we had 77 different Vedis. Our altar that we made, there were 77 varieties. Kurma was there. Senachiti is very famous. Falcon, flying kite. There is one in Uttarakhand even today. I took a photo and put it in my book, 2,300 years old. It's in a very bad shape, but you are still able to see the Senachiti. And there are many Senachitis I see around. Now, to make a Senachiti is not easy. There are 5 different shaped bricks. You have to use exactly 200, not one more, not one less. Garhapatya and Ahavaniya and all these Dakshina, one must be a square, one must be a circle. Circle must be exactly equal to square. If circle must be exactly equal to square in area, you need pi, because pi r square is equal to a square. Is it not? The area of a circle is pi r square. If you know the radius, pi r square is the area of a circle. Square, if one side is a, the area of a square is a square, is the elementary 3rd standard, 4th standard geometry. But if both of them should be of the same area, which is what these Vedis are all about, you have Dakshina Agni, Garhapatya and Ahavaniya and all that, and then you have Darshapurna in between and so on. Now you know pi, you should know pi. Indians had some 22 different approximations for pi. Chaturadikam Sadam Ashtagunam 62,832 by 20,000. There is one. There is one Madhavacharya, 11 digits. In fact, the highest pi is called an irrational number. Irrational number means decimals can keep on, it will never stop. That's called an irrational number. And Ramanujan's approximation for pi has 1.9 million digits. You cannot even imagine 1.9 million digits. Ramanujan has the highest approximation for pi in Indian, who lived 150 years, 100 years before. This is a legacy of our people. This is the Senachiti. It took 8 hours for me to do this for my book, because I didn't know how these 200 will fit, because I could not find references. So I kept on trying and finally got how the 200. This is like the kids, if you give the jigsaw puzzle, they will do it. This is a jigsaw puzzle I solved because I didn't have a reference. Exactly 2. And the table says what are the size of the bricks, how many number is required, how many goes into the head, how many goes into the body, how many goes into the wings, how many goes into the tail. And all these they made only with a stick and a thread around it. Sulba Sutra. That's why it is part of Kalpa, Vedanga. This is an astonishing piece. What you see on the left is called a magic square. Simple magic square, which means all rows will add up to 34. All columns will add up to 34. The 2 diagonals will add up to 34. That is what you see on the left, the brown color. 12 plus 3 plus 6 plus 13 will be 34. If you take the diagonal, 13 plus 4 plus 16 plus 1 will be 34. That itself, we don't know how to do it. What you see on the right, it is called pan-diagonal magic square. What it means is, instead of seeing it like this, instead of seeing it like a sheet, see it like a cylinder. Don't think it is a sheet. Think it can be rolled. If you roll it, the diagonal for 13, 16, 4 will be 1. Because if you roll it, the next number will come there on that side. All of them will add up to 34. So there are many pan-diagonal. There are so many diagonals now. 13, 6, 4. The next number will be, think of it as a cylinder. The next number will be that fellow. He'll be on that side, no? That will also add up to 34. So not only columns add up 34, rows add up 34, main diagonal adds up 34. Any number of diagonals can be constructed, and all of them add to 34. This is called pan-diagonal magic square. Indians solved it 2,200 years back. And Narayana Pandita in 1495 or 1395, I think, Narayana Pandita actually gave a proof. He didn't give a proof. He didn't tell the proof. He said for this 4 by 4. See, this is, if you see, this has a number from 1 to 16. The 1 to 16 is arranged in some format here. If you want to arrange a number 1 to 16 in a 4 by 4 matrix and create a pan-diagonal magic square, he said there are 383 such possibilities. In 1495, he said. In 1920, the Western mathematicians, one fellow came and said, I think there are only 20 such possibilities. Then 8 years later, they said 383. Exactly what Narayana Pandita said. And he gave a construction algorithm, Turaga Gati. It's like a horse ride. That algorithm is called Turaga Gati. And what to speak of this country's knowledge? None of us know it. Because this will not be taught. This will not be taught in any of the subjects here. So we need to teach. We need to teach all these, because only then we get inspired, we'll dip into it and use it and come. You may ask, sir, I am a professor of management. We ask, what is the use of this? Do you know what is the use of this? If you give me 34 people, I will actually, and I have to allocate them for 4 different jobs. I have 383 possible ways by which I can actually allocate. If you give me 4 ingredients and make a perfume, because this problem was also solved by Varaha Mihira in his Brihad Samhita. If you give me 4 ingredients and then mix it in some proportion and give me perfumes, he said, I'll give you 383 different perfumes. Because, in different combinations you are mixing it. So a lot of application. Don't think these are all fancy. And this is called Bhadra Ganita. This is called Bhadra Ganita. Why it is called Bhadra Ganita? Today you go to Indore, you go to, some of the North Indian, shops, they would have drawn this. It is called Bhadra Ganitam because depending upon the number, if it is 50, it means something. If it is 30, it means, marriage will happen. Like we had a culture like this. So they were constructing this. I have, in some old places on the wall, they have done, that's why it's called Bhadra Ganitam. So this is the legacy I'm talking about. This is the knowledge system that I am talking about. Not to speak of our Vedanta, our Ramayana, our Itihasa and all that. I only given you the snapshots. I will now tell you how can we see all these in one framework. What is this Indian knowledge system? Okay. There are 3 words: Indian, knowledge and system. Indian means there is a geographical meaning, there is a demography meaning. Geographical meaning is Akhanda Bharat. It starts from Afghanistan and from there up to Burma. This India is a political formation which is 75 years old. This is not Bharat. This is Britishers' play, which, for practical purposes, we have to live with it. But then, that is not Bharat. Akhanda Bharatam. Asmakam drishtihi sada evameva bhavitovyam. Akhanda Bharatam. Bharatam itukte Akhanda Bharatam. So that is the geographical meaning. What is the demographical meaning? None of the work written by foreigners are Indian. I want to tell this very clearly to you. When I started writing the book, I wasted 1 month reading some, Max Miller and so on. I found they did not bring what is to be brought. It's very difficult. This culture only we know. So the definition is those who are born here, lived here, they are part of this Samskriti. No, in that context, some foreigners are also part of it. There is one lady by name, she came to Calcutta University, 12 varsham. Her book on Hindu temple is the reference. I don't think anybody can write. Her book on Vishnu Dharmottara Purana is the reference. She was part of this culture. She was part of this culture. So there is a meaning of what is Indian. Indian is those who have lived through the samskara. In my book, I have given a quote from a Dutch famous philosopher called Calland. Shatapatha Brahmana, he has actually given a translation. This translation goes like this. The earth is separated from heavenly bodies by stacking 1,000 cows one over the Uttaradara Shata Gavaha, Sahasra Gavaha, one mantra is there. So he thought Gava means cow. He has to go to what is called in one of the Vedanga, is a dictionary for Veda. Nigantu. There are 38 meanings for go. He didn't know that. So my advice is you should read Indian work? Because we understand the meaning of what we are doing. It is not with a dictionary. So many people read Ramayana with a Sanskrit dictionary. Sanskrit is one language for which you don't need a dictionary. Dictionary cannot give you anything. Tasya upayogah eva nasti. If you know the basic structure, that is enough. Like that. Knowledge comes out of deep thinking, observation, validation. Asmakam purvajaihi sada evameva kritam. They were always doing only this. Keen observers, validating, verifying it, testing it out. That is called knowledge. It can be oral, it can be also formal, informal. Lipi avashyakam iti na. यदि लिपि अस्ति तस्य किंचित् लिखित्वा स्थापितुम् अवकाशः लभ्यते. We don't have to necessarily have everything in a written form. System, we have a lot of methods. There is a Chaturdasha Vidyasthana. There are different nice methodological frameworks to classify the system. I will only show one quick classification. Literary and non-literary. In literary, you can say Sanatana Dharma and other dharmic traditions. Core and other. Okay. Regional. As much as you have in Sanskrit, you have in all Indian languages. Right? You have Kamba Ramayanam is available in so many, for example. Ramcharitamanas is there. So, for everything that you find in the core literature which is in Sanskrit, you have found that the regional languages have improvised it, retold it, told it in a context which is much more understandable for them. Mula uddeshasya parivartanam kadapi na bhavati. What is to be conveyed is always conveyed. But then the way it is conveyed, so the regional literature is much bigger than this literature. All these. So you have Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, in which you have Veda, Vedanga, Dharma Shastras, Itihasa. You have Shad Darshanas, Ityadikam, Vishnu Purane etasya vivaranam vartate. Katam etad bhavati. 14 or 18 part classification is all those is there. There is a very rich, I showed only the other part of it. You name, dyes and chemicals. We have what is called Vajra Lepa, again Brihad Samhita. How to prepare a wall. That is why after 2500 years, they are not fading. Why is that not fading? Because how do you prepare the surface? Vajra Lepa. There is a formula to prepare a surface before you paint. We have thought about it. So I went to a Sigiriya fort in Sri Lanka. That is also not fading. Because they are using this methodology only. They were all part of us anyway. So all these. Then the other dharmic traditions, Buddha and Jaina, they have contributed a lot in mathematics, shipbuilding. Bahu taihi kritamasti. Yukti Kalpataru, if you see, there are references on Buddhist work on, references to Buddhist work on, shipbuilding and things like that. As I told you, there are regional literature. And then there are others. Oral traditions. It need not be in a lipi form. This is the only country in which you travel every 30 kilometers, your tongue, taste on the tongue will change. The dosa will be very different. We believe today we are trying to demolish all of them and have only pizza all over the country. Everywhere you take only this. Diversity was part of our life. Huge diversity. Why? Prakriti Visesha. Prakriti Gunasambhavaha. We don't believe all are same. We believe all are unique. All are same is not the right statement. All are unique. So we have to cater to that uniqueness. Asmakam sampradaya eshaha eva asit. That is, why are we in this mess today and how we have to get out of it? See, this Macaulay, actually 1 million pound was sanctioned by the Queen at that time for development of a language. 1 million pound in 1831. And Macaulay was asked, tell me which language we should invest on. Macaulay gave a very nice, so-called nice note in which he said there are 3 possibilities: Arabic, Sanskrit and English. Then he argued why this Sanskrit is such a useless language. And finally he said, let us create English medium schools and so on. So these are all some of the statements from there. The dialects commonly spoken among the natives of this part of India contain neither literary nor scientific information and are moreover so poor and rude that until they are enriched from some other quarters, you cannot get any useful work out of them. This is what Britishers did when they went to US, when they went to Australia, when they went to everywhere, Canada. This is what they did. They have to clean them up. They did not make an attempt to understand what this culture is. They thought all these are useless. Right? A single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India. This is a challenge for all the youngsters sitting here. We have to challenge this. This literature of this country is worth only a single shelf in a European library. This is what he wrote in his note. Okay? I believe, no exaggeration to say, all the historical information which has been collected from all the books written, Sanskrit language, is less valuable than what may be found in the most paltry abridgments used at preparatory schools in England. Now, my worry is not so much about these statements. If I am charged of changing an education system and I have such a view about this country's Samskriti, then I will turn the education system in a particular way. I am a product of that. We are all products of that in some ways. That is what is happening. Mahatma Gandhi said in 1930, he said this Indian education is a beautiful tree. You have uprooted it. He said people are not able to afford. Today people cannot afford English medium schools. What he said is true even today. You cannot afford an English medium school. And this Dharampal wrote such a beautiful book called The Beautiful Tree, in which he said the quality of education and the kind of things that we are doing are absolutely fabulous. We have lost out. Not fully. We'll come back. See, time is like a slider which moves. We may be in a certain thing. This country is not going to go anywhere because what is Satya nothing can be done about Satya. The very definition of Satya is that which existed, which exists, which will exist. Therefore, in between small little commercial breaks. Like that. Some masala is required. Sometimes it is so boring, you are doing the same thing and so on. It's like that. Therefore, all these we have to understand it that way. I think we have to, this kind of educational systems, when we do this private schooling, Gurukula, I think we should, Vishwasa Utpadanam, already we are doing it, but we can do it with more substantive material. So that, it is even more, the force is even more. So therefore, I think that is what we should do in the form of whatever education we do. The government is actually trying. And as a part of it only, this book was written. Only to tell a small story as to Asmakam Paristiti Ka iti Janimah eva. There was a temple in which outside there was a beggar sitting and asking for alms. One sannyasi came. So he asked for, sannyasi said, I am also supposed to beg. So therefore, I cannot give you anything. But I can tell you one thing, you are sitting on this wooden dabba. He was sitting on a wooden box and asking for alms. He said, why don't you open and see it? Then he said, no, I am a fourth generation beggar. My great-grandfather was a beggar sitting on this dabba. Grandfather also said, my father was sitting, now I am sitting. What is there to see? Then the sannyasi said, whether you sit on the top of a dabba for 1 hour or 1 million hours, it doesn't matter until you open and see it. And then he went in to the temple. This beggar just left it. But after 3-4 days, this statement was just bothering him. Maybe what the sannyasi said, there may be a truth. He never thought about it. He said, let me try to open it. The lock cannot be opened because nobody knows. Kunchika kutra asti iti kopi na jananti. Nobody knows where the key is. He took a big stone and then broke the lock. He opened it. It was full of diamond and jewel and gold and so on. Etat asmakam charitram. The story is ours. We are sitting on a wooden box. We are all sitting on a wooden box. Please open it. Thank you. Namaskaram.
Bhavatah pravachanam ativa samichinam sundarancha asit. I have a quick question regarding implementation of this Indian knowledge systems in the engineering curriculum. So we talk about all the architectures, right? Financial management, engineering, architecture, all these things where there still it is a testimony to our contribution to these fields, right? Now it is time for us to think about the way forward. And everyone is in sync with something has to be done to bring the grace in. We have to infuse the grace into our existing curriculum. And in this context, right, so most of our works are in Sanskrit, and it is very important to know the very fundamentals of Sanskrit and the way in which Sanskritized terms, how do they represent it, right? Especially most of them are in Sutra. Most of them are like equations, or the way in which we perceive is different, and most of the foreigners have done a lot of translation and those things, and that has contaminated the actual content. This is what the most of the Indic scholars say. Right, now coming to the an actual point of it, right? Most of the academic institutions have this board of studies, academic councils, right? So they do the internal discussions in the board of studies, and they come up with the syllabi that is required for it, and they present it. So in most of the engineering institutions, they offer a set of open electives, right? So the open elective can be taken by any engineering stream. A student belong to
Yes.
civil engineering may take up manuscriptology or fundamentals of Sanskrit. I see some of the deemed universities have come forward to offer a lot of open electives, right? Manuscriptology, Indian knowledge systems, and all these things. But if you study it as a single course, they just take it for granted because they are offered during the 7th semester or 8th semester, talking in academic terms. And once the course gets over, they are disconnected from that, right? So it is also important to instill the knowledge from the beginning of the engineering stream. So what kind of actions we have to take, right? So especially we have come up with a lot of books on those topics as well, and step by step progress, right? If you I'm thinking about the
So,
massive
I'll come to it. I think I got a sense of what you're asking.
yeah.
I think the most important thing that we need to understand is what we are trying to do today by all that you have said are all via media. The real solution to this problem is you have to take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and get Sishu Geetam there first. We have to start there. These are all via media, and we are trying. And in fact, I am associated with 2 universities which are founded on the principle of IKS. We are struggling hard. I was the founder, vice chancellor of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapit. The very idea there was we will drive everything with IKS. Yesterday, I had a 4 hours meeting with Chinmaya Vishwavidyalaya University vice chancellor, because I am in the board of the trustees, so I insisted. Basically, they are offering an MCOM in finance and wealth management. I said, where is the IKS now? And this question kept on asking. I'm seeing the struggle they are going through, but we are not going to leave it. So we are now struggling to find out how do you bring Arthashastra in a meaningful way. There are a lot of implementation challenges. Arthashastra by itself is one of the best scripture to read. It's such a level of detail. You don't see it in any other scripture. The level of detail, I was astonished. Even how much salary to be given, what punishment. Your books of accounts must be should be given on Ashada Purnima. You have to present your books of accounts, that level of detail. And if you don't present, what is the fine for it? What is the punishment? When you accounts are being examined, who are all should be in the room? That level. Yet we don't know how to actually bring it, because the problem is you need people to teach it, which are very, very difficult. So what will happen is, initially it will look as though it is a lip service, and Shraddha that much will not be there. As you say, it will be in the 7th semester, one has to do it. But that is how it will start. We should not feel uncomfortable about it. But we have to ride 2 more horses. First thing is we have to start from the school. Fortunately, the government of India has now a massive revision of their national curriculum framework. Completely there. CBSE is a very big thing. So in this, they have 26 groups working. I head the group for the country on knowledge of India. Okay. As I am the chair of that committee. Even there, I will tell you, we have written a 66-page, enormous thinking in 6 months. We have written a 66-page how knowledge of India has to be. Rootedness is our keyword. As we have given that position paper, we know what are the challenges in implementing it. It's not going to be easy. Yet we will have to try. So what I'm saying, for the next 15 years, it will all look a little kitchady. it will not look very the way we should not have any discomfort on that. This is point number one. So you should introduce courses in higher education which may not go very well, but at least the familiarity will start hitting people and so on. Out of 50 in a class, if two students are sold on it, I consider it as a success now. That's all I need. In 50 students, that's what all venture capitalists do. They bet on 50 horses, one horse take everything back for them. This is what venture capitalists do. So that is one. Second thing that we'll do is we will encourage heavily on PhD and master's thesis and so on, because that is where you can experiment. Finally, your recommendation may be great, may not be great, but then more and more and more we create, then we'll create an ecosystem. Third is we have to operate at a schooling level. The government of India is into all the three. So we should keep doing it and we should keep moving forward. It is a massive upstream swimming. Let's not go away from it. Let's get into it. And knowing fully well, first 5 years may not be. I mean, I'm personally working only with that. And I'm not seeing it. Sometimes, no, we'll have to keep going. Let's keep going.
I have a question in related to what the gentleman asked just now. You were talking about engineering, but I'm talking about like primary school level. My son is 7 years old and he studies in Agastya Gurukulam, which is a Sanskrit medium school. And they are trying to teach all the Shastras, matching it with CBSE syllabus. So, of course, like you said, there are a lot of challenges which they are trying and working out. And it's going on well. But the thing is, we are not able to find right acharyas who can teach Ganitam, who can teach Vijnanam. So, what is the solution for
So your son will become a great acharya. That's the first solution. No, I'm seriously telling you.
Yeah, I can see that.
See, the moot point here is that age of 7 to 17 is what is most important. And I am a believer, you can pump any amount into that mind. That is the most critical time. So even if it is less than perfect, I will tell you, I never learned Sanskrit. Only in 11th standard, somebody told, hey, you take Sanskrit, you'll get some marks. Because we had a certain samskara. You know, we were telling shlokas, we knew all this. My mother used to teach me all the stotras. So, lipehe parichayaha asit. I was little conversant about Sanskrit lipi and all that. And, I learned a lot of shlokas and all that. Somebody told you learn 11th and 12th, you take Sanskrit, you'll get marks. But that 7 to 17, something must have happened to me. I invested on my own on Sanskrit. I was self-made in Sanskrit. I never went to any acharya. Slowly. When my daughter was growing, for 14 years, I used to read Sanskrit Chandamama for her to sleep. I will sleep, she will not sleep. That's a different story. But in the process, I picked up enormous vocabulary. I read about 25 years of Chandamama, 10 years of Sambhashna Sandesh to my daughter. Whether she listens or not, that's an opportunity. So, one step at a time. But all that happened because of a certain. So, your son will become a great acharya. Until then, we will have to. These constraints are there now. Some part of it may be good, some part of it may not be good. But somewhere, when the kids go through it, they get energized. In fact, they seeing it inadequate is the source of opportunity. That is where is the source of opportunity. So, don't worry, it will happen.
We've been hearing a lot of information saying that the Sanskrit and the Arabic text were printed till around independence time, Indian independence time, and then it slowly dwindled. Is that really true? We know we have been in a cultural renaissance from 2014 onward, but is that really true that I just want to have a correlation between printing of the Indian texts and the truthfulness in the court. For example, Periyanna used to say that people will not even go to the court and say utter a lie there. Okay, not that whatever I say is truth and all that. Okay, it never used to be that. So, is there a correlation between printing of the text and that going to the masses and the truthfulness? And that stopped, and then the court is now like that. You know how a lawyer speaks, right? You can have your client. It can be completely a false case, and you can do that. So, is that something there is a correlation between?
Yeah, there is. Certainly there is. See, but it is much more deeper than that. I used to think about it. See, what is the cardinal principle of Sanatana Dharma? The cardinal principle of Sanatana Dharma is karma. Karma theory is so important to us. On the other hand, an average Indian, I'm not talking about foreigner, an average Indian, you think about it, because I have thought about it many number of times. An average Indian strongly believes in one Janma. Every action we take is only because of that. That is because these texts are receded. The alternative texts are telling something else to us. You look at how we do Vyavahara here, we don't think about the karma. We think it is one opportunity. That is a Abrahamic perspective of life. That is deeply ingrained in the Indians now. Think about how do you approach a problem. Why you go after money? In fact, if you have one Janma, there are many things you have to do. That's what we are doing today. If you have one Janma. If you believe in karma, our complete position will change. We will have a much larger view. And, it doesn't need too much complex argument. You go to a village fair. அங்கே பார்த்தேன்னா அங்கே ஒரு அந்த சோப்பு கண்ணாடி சீப்பெல்லாம் வச்சுட்டு 3 ரிங் அவனே 3 சான்ஸ் கொடுக்குறான். 3 ரிங்கு 10 ரூபாய்க்கு. நீங்கள் முதல்ல அப்படி போட்டு பார்க்குறீங்க, போகிறது இல்லை. செகண்ட் டைம் when you try more or less hit it, third time. If you take a soap, you need 3 opportunities. To evolve, you need 3 million opportunities. Don't you think? How can you say one chance? But then, we don't think about it. I am finding all Indians, well-meaning people, well-educated, so-called well-educated in the current Macaulayan education and so on, we are living a life of a belief of one Janma. You change that, our complete practices will change. For example, I have given money to people they have never given to me. I have no discomfort because I know karma is working. Whereas today we are worried because before I die I have to get back with interest and all that. I have no belief like that now. I know that interest grows at a phenomenal rate. As an example, I am telling what I am saying, that has made a difference, and that difference is because the texts and the work which were emphasizing all of them were receded, and they were not only they receded, they were replaced by an alternative text which told something else. I am very convinced an average good God-fearing religious Indian believes strictly in one Janma. You go and check for yourself. You check how I reacted to many activities, many responses, many things in life. What you find behind is one Janma. Moment you bring this Punarjanma, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Mananam, you think about it, the way we lead life will be very different, which is what it was. That made the difference because these texts also were withdrawn. So that correlation is very true.
Sitaramji, my question is, you told about how the next 5 to 15 years will be a lot of khichdi because we are introducing familiarity and those things. Along the way, in this, my concern is continuously the Indic education, Indic knowledge system is trying to fit itself into the Macaulayan CBSE or ICSE, those curriculums. Along with this journey that is necessary, along with it, on a side, is it possible to have a completely alternate board that is also equally recognized?
Okay, so just to quickly answer this, one of the prime recommendation we made as this new curriculum framework that we are talking about. See, today, if you bring IKS, do you know how they bring it? One box. You talk Pythagoras theorem, one Kanar Bodha and a Salpa Sutra. This is like, in a program you have 2-minute commercial ad. Or, when you have something, you put a little bit to distract. We said, don't write text. You have to change the order of writing textbook. We are saying, it is not this is better than that. That also is not required. We don't need any of those. You say you want to introduce a concept. Our argument is, go into the Indian traditions and see whether you will be able to actually argue and bring that concept so well. Bring it. For the sake of continuity, put the Pythagoras on the box. Instead of putting Bodha and Sulba Sutra on the box, put the Pythagoras on the box wherever it is. You just reverse the whole trend. In other words, what we said was, you have a clean slate approach, because that's the only way we said rootedness in India will happen. You clean slate, you ask, this is a concept I have to introduce. Can we introduce? Probably we'll have much better examples to show, much better things to show. And then, if you want a little continuity, because global, all that we are talking, so therefore a little bit of the other things also you say, so that they are also aware of how this is connected. This is the approach we are saying. Now again, I do not know how many people are capable of writing a book like that. It will all happen. Version 1 will not be good. Version 2 will be slightly better. That's why I said, once you land onto the right road, I feel a little safe. Then we'll move. Depending upon our constraints, we'll move a little slower, faster, all that we will do. But I am worried if you are on the wrong road. My sense is probably we have trying to come out of that road and on this road.
Just
Yes.
one question in two parts. Is there an equivalent of the software or the computer in the Indian knowledge system, which is ruling the world? How do we make I know you said we should not look at material things, but how do we make a material success out of it?
Yeah. In fact, see, the entire binary mathematics, which is at the core of computers, if you want the best of it, you should read what is called Pingala's Chandra Shastra. Okay? In fact, in my book, I have given algorithms. Suppose you have a 10-digit binary word. 10-digit binary word. 00011100001. There are 512 such possibilities. 2 power 10 is 512. Pingala has an algorithm. You tell me the row. Tell me the row 378. I will tell you the binary strip. 00011100111. Or you give me a binary strip. I will tell you in which row it is there. Stacking. Binary mathematics was fully exploited. How did he do it? He did not talk 0 and 1. He talked what is called, Lagu and Guru. Guru is equal to 0, Lagu equal to 1. If you put it completely, it transforms into a this thing. Pascal's triangle, which we read, is there. Yamata Rajabana Salagam is called De Bruijn cycle. Length 3. 1983, they found what is called De Bruijn cycle. That is Yamata Rajabana Salagam, which is the Ashtaganas. Yagana, Magana, Ragana, that Yamata Rajabana Salagam is actually De Bruijn cycle of length 3. All these are there at different places. So when you say, will it be useful? Well, today we are on the ring side. So there are 2 stages to answer some of the earlier questions also. There are 3 stages. First get to know what is there. Without knowing what is there, you don't even know what to do with that. So we had to spend 10 years without asking, only to know what is there. Then moment I know, I will now start saying, how do I apply it? Can I use it to do? All that we can't do now because I am not at all equipped. That is the kind of thing that we will go through.
Sitaram, you shared us a very interesting perspective about Indian knowledge system and how we rule the world. I also go back to Angus Madison's statistics, OECD statistics about how India had the highest GDP
Till 1700.
till 1700, till Europeans arrived. We were the number 1 economic superpower in the
Correct.
world. I want to bring another dimension. In today, what is happening is there is a lot of effort made in knowledge management system. If you go to the Harvards of the world, they primarily look at how can we improvise the knowledge system. But my belief is that if you look at experiences from the last 300 years, we had Europe, which was the hegemony, and now they are losing it out. And then you have US, which is coming up. I think what they are missing is the dharmic side of it. I'm also a product of Western school. When we go to college there, we increase our knowledge, but we also try to appropriate the knowledge, create barriers for others. We don't democratize it. Every institution is taught how to create porters, entry barrier, and this creates a vicious cycle. We are seeing examples of Pfizer, with whose vaccinations are out, without the appropriate trial and error, and they're forcing Indian governments to actually take out certain laws which will favor them, etc. So I think if you go back in time, knowledge management system was on the one side. On the other side, we also had the dharmic consciousness. Part of the reason now we are seeing in our modern education is we don't have this fusion of these two coming into play. We only read one thing. We are taught how to win all the time, which I think is not a sustainable education for us. I would like to hear your thoughts and views.
Exactly that one Janma business. Where is this pressure to win? The pressure to win comes from this one Janma business. Everything has to be done before I die. Whereas I say the art of dying is far more important than the art of living. That's why you have to read 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita properly. No, art of dying is very, very important. Prana prayana samaye kapavada pito mukundamala, what is he say? Kantavarodhanam smaranam kutaste. So, moment you step out of the single Janma business, Sanatan Dharma will pop up. The dharmic tradition will come. Now, I'll give you a simple example. 3 years back or 4 years back, I went to one of my colleagues who is a good Sanskrit Pandit. I said, hey, why don't you teach me Vyakarana? I have learned, but I would like to properly go with you. And then I took about 2 years, twice a week I will go. Finally, I asked him, what is a Guru Dakshina? I should give. This will happen only in this country. You know what was the Guru Dakshina? He said the Guru Dakshina is you teach 6 people. That's all. There is no fees business. In fact, in Chinmaya Vishwavidyapit, I argued that Acharyaya Priyam Dhanamahritya Prajatantum Ma Vevachetsi. I quoted that. I said, why don't we build a model in which we will tell the students you don't pay anything, you just come. Right? After you graduate, Acharyaya Priyam Dhanam Ahritya Prajatantum Ma, you get married and all that. Why don't we reverse this model? This is a Western model. You have to upfront pay some fee and all that. There the dharmic tradition will, people will live through the dharmic tradition. You are right. So that will happen according, I am a great believer that moment you hold on to this pillar called there is a Punarjanma and there is this Agami and Sanchita and Prarabdha Karma. If you firmly believe in it, I think we will change for sure. Many of what we do in our daily dainandinikina vyavahare mahan parivartanam bhavishyati asmakam प्रवृत्ति मार्गे अपि सम्यक् व्यवहारं कर्तुम् अवकाशः लभ्यते निवृत्ति मार्गे निश्चयेन वयं गम्भीरेण वयम् अग्रे गच्छामः this is what we need and I think such Gurukula will do it in a big way and that is why we need such things.
But like you said, the first step is to expose youngsters to this and what you said about being energized, very, very true. I think all through the speech, I felt the energy. It's been a very exciting, very energizing morning because it has instilled a positive vision for what is going to come. I was in high school, I went to a proper school until 10th grade, and one thing that kept happening is I wasn't learning anything. I think a lot of us, we all feel we're not learning, we're coming out of schools dumb, and the very idea that the future can change in a drastic way like this, I think it's a very positive, very brilliant vision, something that we feel energized to involve ourselves in. Very privileged to hear this from you. Sitaram.
Thank you. I think it was a great opportunity to interact. A lot of Shraddha here. I know we are a very special group, and it's my pleasure to spend some time with all of you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.